Those are rodent sounds, bats. Yeah, yeah. Hello and welcome to Hexcrank Live. This is Cole once more, still, even. Picking up with something new. My PS2 is still on the outs. I attempted the repair, but no dice at all. So, I'm going to be finishing Haunting Ground later after I replace it. And instead, this weekend, I'm going to be doing some short stuff. Specifically, tonight, playing a game called Home. Impossible game to search for, by the way. I played this several years ago on iPad. And I remember having a good time with it. It's kind of similar to a Last Door. It is a lo-fi, pixelated kind of horror game with some really cool filter work that's done, actually. Playing it on the PC here. Let me switch over to make sure I've got video. Yeah, let's do it. Let's get started. So, it's a short game, hour and a half is what they recommend. All I remembered at that point was finding myself alone. Oh, my head. Where was I? It was so dark. There was something by my feet. A flashlight. That house. Where was I? There was a body lying on the floor. Who was it? Glad that was in headphones. I noticed that I limped as I moved down the stairs. How did I hurt my leg, I wondered. All I could really recall was coming home, seeing Rachel. I was upset. She looked afraid. I shook my head and tried to clear it. I knew I should head downstairs, try to find a way out. A thin gray mouse was stuck in a trap. It looked frantic, but exhausted. Did I free it? Yeah. House isn't very nice anyway. A collection of rusty tools. These looked like they'd seen a lot of use and were caked in damp-smelling dirt. Why weren't they in a shed? I found a picture of a couple. It looked like it had been moved a lot. There seemed to be a switch behind it. Then I pushed the switch. I love this trick with the writing, because it is first person, past tense, uncertain. He's trying to recall. Did I actually do that? It puts a lot of uncertainty into the action. It depressed smoothly into the wall. I heard a faraway click somewhere. Cursor check. The shelf was full of books on local history and hunting. Seemed like the owner of the house really knew the area. An old dining table covered with dirty dishes for 2 people. There were dozens of beer cans and other liquor bottles among the dishes. The smell was turning my stomach. A black and white photo. Looked like the man upstairs and his wife. I guess there was no reason for me to keep this. Did I take it? Yes. I forget how the endings work in this, so we're just gonna see how things go. I feel like I didn't explore upstairs entirely. Ooh, a computer. The desk had a computer and some papers on it, and a single drawer. I didn't want to snoop, but did I open the drawer? Yes, receipts, pen, and a blurry photo. Looked like a store of some kind. Why did this look so familiar? Blood on the wall. It smells fresh and sickening. I realized there was blood on my shoes and pants. Oh man, I had to get out of there. Okay, this is where I started. Sound off in the chat. Hey, Zach, there we go. I wanted to make sure. This game defaults to full screen, and I could not figure out how to make it windowed, so I am currently looking at a different computer to see chat. I looked like hell. My clothes were dirty and torn, and there was mud caked all over my shoes. The bathroom was spotless. Everything had been wiped to a sheen. I wondered if it was the man's wife who did the cleaning, or him. There was a photo development tray laying on the floor. Some leftover negatives were sticking out, but they were pretty blurry. I thought I saw what looked like treetops. The front door was blocked by a pile of furniture. I knew I had to find another way out. Basement time. Hey, Greta. The door was taped up and seemed to be stuck, but the smell, I guess it led to the kitchen. The switch on the wall appeared to have unlocked the door. The box looked heavy, but there were marks on the floor. It had obviously been moved before. Maybe I'd found a way out. I must have moved it, right? I heaved the box forward, and finally it gave. There was a ladder going underground where the box was. A dank smell rose from the passage. Did I climb down the ladder? I looked again at the photo that I found at the house. The couple looked distant, like they didn't want to be in the same picture. I wonder where the wife was. My leg was in terrible shape, but I had to get out. One-way ladder. Footprints in the dirt. Looks like more than one kind, and a lot of traffic. Places all over were marked on the old map of town. The industrial area near the river, various houses, and even the water tower near the old rail station. Newspaper clippings from the local paper. They were all about murders in the town over the past few years. Wait. There were photos. Photos of our house. What the hell was that about? Maybe I should have looked around more, tried to find some kind of information. A work table, covered in papers, dirt, and a handgun. I hated guns. I didn't take it, did I? I tucked the small handgun into my pocket. Its weight was somehow reassuring. It was so dark down there, and the air smelled stale and putrid. I couldn't believe what I saw. What was this place? It looks like more basement. Okay, I got a few objects here. It looked like a cage? It was small, but there was something coating the bottom. Something wet. Oh, that used to be an animal. Crudely made shelves. They looked like they were holding cans of some kind of corrosive. The labels were worn and slick, but I could still see the warnings. Hey, Knive9, welcome. Some kind of homemade rack, slung together with poorly cut wood and rope. It was caked with old blood. Somebody didn't actually use that, did they? Shoddy workmanship. The desk looked old and was caked with grime. On it was a stack of old faded paper covered with what looked like names. They were scratched out and illegible. They were scratched out, and illegible notes were written beside them in faded blue ink. I could only make out a few letters. H-I-E. Huh. None of it made any sense to me. Oh, I don't like the look of those shackles. They looked to be bones, half dug into the ground, and their remains looked old. The faded clothes that stuck up amongst the dirt looked familiar. They looked like the clothes that woman was wearing in the photo I found. Was this the man's wife? Some kind of old boxes. They looked like they were years old. Wait a minute, these boxes had old clothes in them. Clothes I remembered throwing out after Rachel and I moved to town. What the hell are they doing here? Those were rodent sounds, bats. Yeah. I remember noticing the broken ladder. I had to be careful. See, the broken ladder seems one way. Oh no, somebody got Cask of Amontillado. There was a rope hanging there. I wasn't sure how sturdy it was. Did I take it? Maybe the rope would make that broken ladder easier to descend. Hi, Eric. Too many Z's. Or just enough. The rope I found would have let me climb down the broken ladder safely. Did I climb down? Knive9 raises a good point. The past tense is awkward when sentences include, oh, wait a minute, as part of the narration. I could hear a faint hum, and the smell from before started to get worse. I like those room transition animations. A bunch of old newspapers, wheat pasted together. A message had been hastily smeared on it. Keep out. Danger due to cave-in. What's this doing under a house? I could still feel a faint impression of the rope I had slid down as I pressed against the heavy metal door. It was probably for the best that I hadn't jumped. The ache in my leg was bad enough as it was. If I could have, though, I would have run straight out of those awful tunnels. Who would keep such a place? At least, I thought. I'd found that old handgun. It seemed to work, and from the smell of it had been used already. I kept the gun in my pocket. It seemed a familiar weight there. There was dirt on the ground. It looked wet, and there was grass smeared within it. I could hear a faint trickling sound, like water. What was that? Huh, I wonder if that's the way out. A kitchen knife covered in drying blood. Thinking about it made me sick. I didn't even want to touch it. Did I take the knife? Say yes to everything. I slipped the knife in my boot since I had the gun in my pocket. Did I really need all this? The door was locked. There was a musty smell from inside. I wasn't sure, but I thought it was some kind of regulator. I had no idea how it worked. I wasn't sure what those valves were for. Did I turn it anyway? No, I made a sound stop. I wasn't sure what those valves were for. Then I turned it anyway. Okay, this might actually be a puzzle. Let's do a little bit more exploration, see what these are hooked to. There was a ladder back here that I passed by. Ugh. Disgusting. It was a mess of filthy garbage bags. There were rips and tears in most of the bags. The Doomslayer's been here. What looked like an old videotape was sticking out. Did I take the tape? I wasn't sure what I hoped to discover with the tape, but I took it anyway. Okay, let's try going out the supposed exit. There was a rusty ladder sunk into the water, which smelled disgusting. I knew I couldn't climb down that. Maybe I could find a way to drain the putrid water. Alright, so that's what I need to use the valves for. Let's see what kind of feedback they give me. These are numbered, right? Like, that's valve 1. Is one of these like the exit? Is it the drain valve? Okay, easy enough. Let's see. My heuristic goes doors before stairs or ladders, and tunnels before doors. Looks like the water drained out of that grate in the wall. Huh. There was a small metal key left floating in the shallow pool of rancid water. Did I take it? I pocketed the small key, but it was so odd-shaped, I had no idea what it might open. The safety poster had definitely seen better days. How old was this facility? The door was locked. I could see a faint light within. Huh, security camera. There was a security camera in the room. There must have been a way to see what had happened. Maybe the VHS tape that I found would prove useful. Oh. I found another dead body. By the wounds all over his face and body, I figured he'd been stabbed repeatedly. There was a key ring sticking out of the man's pocket. Did I take it? I thought about the knife I had found with some disgust as I carefully picked the keys from his pocket. I was almost worried he was going to grab me. There was a hint of fresh air here. I must have been near an exit. But I wondered, what did that key I found on the sewer worker do? What was on that videotape I found? This is not correct, I don't think. I used the key ring to unlock the door. The shelf was full of security tapes, and it was strictly organized, though covered in dust. It looked like the tape I found was the one that was missing from the shelf. There was a dusty VCR on the there was a dusty VCR on the security desk. I wondered what was on that VHS tape I found. Did I play the tape? Oh no. The video showed a man right there in the sewers being attacked. The tape looked fuzzy and stretched like somebody had tampered with it. It looked like there could have been two men. I couldn't stand to watch that video again. I think there was another locked door somewhere here. Oh, right, yeah, I was by the valves. I tried a bunch of the keys on the key ring I had found on that sewer worker, and one of them seemed to fit. Wholesome. A collection of stale liquor bottles covered the floor. The wall was littered with dozens of old faded papers. Whoever did this was obsessed with some local murders. According to some of the clippings, bodies had been found in ravines, in the forest, and in one case, dumped in the back of an abandoned truck. I couldn't be sure, but I thought some of these same articles had also been pasted up back in those tunnels. A faded receipt was half trampled on the floor. It was from the local train station and was for 2 tickets. I didn't know what use it would be, but did I keep the receipt? I neatly folded the soiled receipt and slipped it into my front pocket. Yeah, all of this feels like it, Oh, Jesus. Would I need that gun or that knife before the end? Both weighed me down and aggravated my leg as I climbed that old ladder. The thought of that videotape still gave me chills. Who was it that didn't want to be seen? Was it the same person that hid all those clippings away in that locked room? Suddenly, the awful smell of that sewer gave way to a pine-scented blast of air. Oh, just spooky eyes in the background. The lid had fallen on the entrance there, and it was stuck shut. No looking back. An old ladder leading up to an ancient water tower. The ladder needed to be extended so I could climb it. Did I extend the ladder? I popped the latch and brought the ladder down. In a patch of smeared dirt and grass, there was a beat-up old wallet. I thought it was mine. Did I take it? Get that money. I slid the filthy wallet back into my pocket. I noticed that it didn't contain any kind of gun permit. In fact, it didn't contain any cards or ID of any kind. I thought I should recover my credit card and driver's license at least. From the railing, I could see over the woods and down to the entrance of the sewers. Had I come through here before? If I did, someone definitely could have seen me. Okay, am I being stalked by somebody? I'm uncertain because I can't, I remember nothing about the story, so I don't know if this is some kind of basic you're the killer with amnesia kind of deal or not. 2 doors. I tried the little key I had fished out of the murky puddle in the sewers. It fit, and I heaved open the rusty door. Ugh. Terrible sound. The wind was picking up a bit. The night air had become strangely chilly. The old train station was quiet as a tomb. The only sound was that of the increasing wind buffeting the decrepit structure. Huh. An old map encased in glass hung on the wall. It was the train routes connected to that old station. As I looked at it, it seemed familiar. Of course! The map I had found in those tunnels had similar locations marked, and the notes I found on the other man's bookshelf. His notes mentioned the water tower, and even this train yard. What was he doing coming back here? Ugh. The old train was ripped open and hanging from a shred of metal, as well as the broken fence, was a dark, stained patch of cloth. It looked synthetic, like some kind of outerwear. Inside the train's shell, I could see a few faint impacts, like wounds. Could they have been bullet marks? Was somebody shot there? The ground was well worn, though I couldn't really make anything out. I realized I was touching the gun I had found as I fought. Are you walking in your own footsteps, sir? An old ticket booth that looked fairly ruined. Inside the ticket window were sheets of paper and... Wait, what were these? Train receipts? Oh, like the ones that I found in the sewage treatment area. I thought the receipt I had picked up might match these, but of course not. This station had been closed for years. The ticket must have been for the newer station that opened up on the other side of town, after this one was abandoned. However, I noticed a series of fresher-looking paper covered in tiny notes, scribbles, and diagrams. I love the pixelated grain filter over this. It's really good. I don't know if that comes through in the Twitch compressor. This must have been the entrance to the forest that was mentioned on that map I had seen. Whoever was poking around in those tunnels underneath that man's house had scribbled notes on this place, but I couldn't make them out. Here, the sign pointed out various campsites and walking paths within the woods. It mentioned a river and maybe a washroom, but the rest was too faded to see clearly. Okay, cool. Zach says you can see the grain filter. Neat. Oh, is that the... I don't care for that so much. Confusing navigation. A dry old picnic table sat lonely amongst the trees. and had carvings and marks from years of previous campers. As I had tried to read some of the names and the marks, I idly thumbed the knife I'd found. If I wanted to, I could have carved something on that table. Did I do it? Yes to everything. With a few simple, crude strokes, I etched this design into the wood. R and H. I felt like a teenager defacing the table. So, he mentioned the name Rachel before. The path ended in a cold-looking river. I wasn't sure if it was safe to cross like this. Did I cross it? Let's do no. For right now, there's other places for me to look. Trampled into the dirt and grass was a plastic card of some kind. I brushed it off and was surprised to see it was my credit card. I wasn't sure if it was still usable, but it was mine. Did I take back my credit card? I pocketed the credit card. Hopefully I could find my driver's license too. Through the fence, I could see a dilapidated outbuilding. I wondered if I could find my way around. Okay, we have a goal. There was a fire pit there. It was still a bit warm, and a few embers still burned at the bottom. 2 folding camping chairs were on the ground. One was knocked over. There were a couple of cans of beer spilled on the ground. The cheap dome tent slept 2 people. I shone my flashlight inside and could see some bedrolls, 2 backpacks, and a cooler. Ugh. The grimy sink had a small patch in it that looked almost clean. There was a damp-smelling plank leaning against the stall door. I might have been able to cross the river with it. Did I take it? Yeah, let's take some dank planks. God, this navigation is incredibly confusing to me. It is confusing to me. The sign was the same as the first one that I had seen. This must have been the exit to the other side of the woods. I had finally found the exit. Once I left, I know I'd never wanted to return there. I still want to see some other stuff. There were some personal effects. 1 second. Excuse me. There were some personal effects shoved back into the rock. Wait, there was a notebook there too. Did I read it? Inside the cheap dollar store notebook was page after worn page of notes of names and lists. None of it made much sense. The newest page contained several names. Heather, Olivia, Ashley, Cheryl, Iris, Daphne, Holly, Rose, Rachel. Rachel? Her name was last on the list and had a mark beside it in blue ink. The names Daphne and Olivia had been crossed out in the same blue ink. Cheryl, Heather, and Rose had also been crossed out, but these marks looked older and more faded. One moment. Okay, I had to blow my nose. Summer allergies, guys. Hey there, Andrew. No, I went exactly in the wrong direction. Let's see if I can find that river again. The plank I found was long enough to form a crude bridge, but I wasn't sure if it would hold. Did I use it? Two bodies, two young women, were half dug into hasty, shallow graves between the trees. The younger-looking one was still face up, her dead eyes gleaming against my flashlight. They deserved better than that. Did I clean up the gravesite? I tried to cover them up a bit more, and I closed the younger woman's eyes. I fashioned a crude marker. I wasn't sure why, but I felt I had to do something. I don't know why this is more confusing than just, like, a building would be. I mean, these little breaks in the... These little breaks in the shrubbery are just doors. It just doesn't feel like there's an awful lot of logic to it. Okay. The forest started to thin out a bit, and through the trees I could make out parts of the town beyond and the first hints of light. The mysteries of that forest were behind me, but I could still feel them on my neck like a warm breath. Those girls I had found. Someone had taken them from their campsite and murdered them. Was it the same person who had left that odd notebook? I was even more eager to get somewhere safe and to find a way to reach Rachel. Oh, buddy, she's been checked off. As I stepped through the gate, I suddenly recognized the auto parts factory where I had worked as a machinist for all those years. The plant had closed almost 3 years ago now. Times were better then. I thought I could hear a faint rustling behind me. Maybe it was just the wind. Oh, Rachel's never alive in the wind. That's never the wind. Ugh. I found the body of a security guard, just doing his job, no doubt. His face was covered with blood from some kind of head wound. I wondered, was this flashlight his? Dug into the ground was a cracked old watch. First my wallet and now this. Did I retrieve my watch? The watch was useless, but I put it on my wrist anyway. One of the lockers hung open. Its contents were tossed around like someone had been looking for something. The door was locked shut, and there was a little electronic box under the handle. A sign was pasted to the front that said, "Danger, closed for repairs." When would Danger ever be open? There was a large power box with 5 lights on it. Cables burst out of the box, snaking off to other parts of the factory. The metal was starting to wear, and cobwebs collected in the corners. The box wasn't receiving any power. Okay, so we have our task for this level. Every part of this plant smelled old and rotted. I noticed the old bulletin board on the wall. The board contained yellowed clippings of newspaper cartoons and notices. There were notes to and from the guys that worked here. One of them was Norman, who was one of the older guys on the line. Our old break table. The layer of dust and grime only made this sting more. Not the dead bodies, buddy? Huh. A power panel. It looked like it was shut off. Is there still more? The open locker was stuffed with dirty work clothes and old boots. There was a photo of a woman taped to the inside, but it was scratched out and the face was unrecognizable. Hey, Jack. Distinct "have you seen my daughter Cheryl" look. He does have kind of a Harry Mason rig out. The door had been hastily boarded up. This was Norman's locker. The door was dented like someone had punched it. I don't remember him doing that when we worked here. Another panel that I hoped could get me that I hoped could help me get the power back on. Hey, hey Greta. I gave you so many treats, girl. Yeah? A utility shelf crammed with mismatched tools and items. There was a claw hammer on the shelf. Did I take the hammer? Yes, that'll let me get into those planked doors. The locker was a complete mess. Hidden at the bottom, though, was a magnetic card. Did I take the card? I slipped the key card into my pocket. Huh? There we go. Now we're humming. I struck with the hammer. The old wooden boards came apart easily. After I'd removed the planks, I left the hammer on the floor. There's an easier way to do that, buddy. What's on the back of that hammer? Oh. This was my locker there in the factory. It stank of booze. There was a picture of Rachel on the side. It looked like it had been torn up. I thought I had taken that picture home when the factory closed. There was a mess of empty booze bottles. I wondered if that man in the house had something to do with this. He sure had a lot of alcohol at that place. Booze bottles as environmental shorthand. Let's see, I think I've got the... yeah. With the power box working again, the door was unlocked. I pushed the handle and stepped through the door. A rack of flashlights hung on the wall. One of them was missing. I was just dying to be a loss at it. The stale scent of the old factory gave way to the brisk odor of pine trees and dirt. I was back outside, though I wasn't sure if that was better or worse. The path beyond was dark, and my flashlight barely illuminated anything. I wondered if it had really been taken from the factory. If so, how did I get it? That poor guard. He was probably just doing his job. Maybe he knew what was going on in that boarded-up room. If he did, he wouldn't be telling that tale to anybody. I hoped the path led back into town. I needed to find some help. Yeah, the boarded-up room was where your locker was, dog. And presumably your booze bottles? The pickup had smashed into the guardrail and stood silent. Was this the truck that those newspaper clippings mentioned? Was there really a body found here too? Wait, is there another? Yeah, that's it. Wait a minute. I picked up some kind of magnetic card. There was at least one door that I hadn't gone into yet. Oh, okay. Oh well. The garbage bin was a disgusting mess of rotten food and slick black bags. I saw a thin greenish corner poking out from one of the bags. It was my driver's license. It looked damaged. Did I take it back? I cleaned the card off as best I could. It looked pretty beat up. I was amazed to have found my credit card, and now this. I tucked the card into my wallet next to my credit card. Hi there, Death on Stilts. Welcome. I don't know that I've seen you here before. Death on Stilts says, Hiya, Cole. I'm envious if this is your first play of this. I played this on iPad several years ago, but I'm realizing now that I never beat it. I don't think I got past the woods. The fence was jammed shut. There was no reason to go back there anyway. Sounded like it was going to start raining again. I had entered Norman's place. This was the back of the store that he ran. It was oddly quiet, except for the faint sound of a television. The entrance to the front of the store was locked from the inside. Looked like I couldn't just pop it open. I needed a key. There was a bit of blood on the keyhole. Oh, Death on Stilts, there's a time zone difference, so... Yeah, it's just after 2:30 there, so you're in Britain. One assumes. One being me, based on hasty time zone math. What the hell? One of Rachel's old autumn coats hung on a rack. That was Norman's bedroom, wasn't it? What was it doing here? Oh, a gun rack. Inside the cabinet was a small but impressive collection of hunting rifles, shotguns, and even a few items I didn't think were legal here. One of the slots on the rack was empty. The gun I had found seemed to match the others there. If the handgun was Norman's, what the hell was he doing with it? Oh, they're in Scotland. Yeah, Death on Stilts is in Scotland. The gun would fit there. Did I place it back in the cabinet? No. I want the gun. The TV still flickered some indecipherable channel. Another guard. Oh no. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Norman, my coworker, one of my few friends I had in this town, lay dead beside his armchair. His face and shirt were covered in blood. It looked like he'd been shot trying to get up. His eyes were wide with shock, though they were already drying. Norman, what was Rachel doing here? Why did you have her coat? Norman, maybe you deserve better. You probably did. Did I close his eyes? Yes. I closed his eyelids down, shuddering as I did so. I wasn't sure if I wanted to give him peace or if I just couldn't stand to think anymore about what was going on. I guessed this was Norman's kitchen table. He kept it clean enough, but there were water rings from 2 cups still there on the wood. The kitchen trash bin smelled fresh. I didn't dig through that mess, did I? Yep. I found a hairpin amongst the rotting food and trash and pocketed it. I don't know why I read that so cheerily. I'd never been to Norman's place before. At least, I didn't ever remember doing so. Can I turn off this TV? I couldn't make out what was on the screen, but that glow just gave me chills. Okay. Yeah, that's the bedroom. I used the hairpin to pick the lock. The hairpin snapped in half, so I threw it away. The general store was small, but it was clean. It had the usual things: postcards, snacks, magazines, and canned goods. I never went there much. Rachel usually stopped by after work if we needed anything. The register was mostly empty, and a fat stack of travel magazines sat beside it. The icebox seemed to be unplugged. It must have been off for a while. Most of the contents were half melted. There were various postcards from the area, especially from the tourist traps. One of the postcards showed an old black and white photo of the water tower. It looked to be in much better shape then. What had I seen? Norman was dead, but I had no idea why. I didn't know how he could be involved in all this, but the thought of him lying on the floor up there was sickening. The only comfort I had was the gun I still carried. But was it really a comfort or a curse? The rain was coming down hard, but at least I was close to home. It wouldn't be long before I got my answers. It was locked. This wasn't the right gate. The gate was locked tight. This wasn't my house. That door only led me back. I had to find my house. The neighborhood's local post box. A letter was sticking out as if someone hadn't pushed it all the way in. I knew it wasn't right, but... Did I look at the letter? Yes. There was no return address, but the envelope was addressed to Norman. Carefully, I tore it open and looked at the letter inside. It read, "Stay away. She's mine." That was it. No signature, no other information. I had entered our backyard. The rain gave me a terrible sense of foreboding, and it chilled me through my clothes. I was expectant, but also afraid. I held my breath as I approached our back door. I was terrified to step inside. The house was painfully quiet. The only sound was my own breathing, ragged and strained. I flicked the light switch by the door. The power was off. I remembered having breakfast here on this very table. Was that yesterday or sometime before? There was a small pile of mail on the floor in front of the mail slot. How long had I been away? Why hadn't Rachel picked this up? Most of the contents were bills. There was a credit card bill here. Did I open it? I ripped the bill open and read it. To my surprise, it said something about canceling my credit card due to non-payment. What the hell? The front door was locked from inside. I couldn't go out, though I needed to see if Rachel was here. The door to the basement. It was locked. Where did I put the damn key? The door was stuck shut. There was an old-fashioned keyhole underneath the handle. If only the hairpin didn't break. I had found the last missing piece from my wallet. The old photo of Rachel and I stared back at me, reminding me of better times. It didn't make me feel terribly comfortable. Did I keep it anyway? I replaced the photo in my wallet, feeling like I had got part of my life back. Still, the image made me uneasy. Why had I thrown it away? Let's see. Our television. I had purchased it before I knew I was going to lose my job. I felt pretty guilty about it afterward, but by then it was too late. All right. The books there were half mine, half Rachel's. Hey, now that I look more closely, it looked like the man in that house had some of the same books as I did. Oh, there's a suitcase. There was a suitcase on the bed. It was Rachel's. I remembered it from that trip we took out west. Did I open the suitcase? I wasn't sure what to make of the suitcase's contents. Inside were a few days' worth of clothes, some toiletries, and a train ticket. I checked the date and time. It matched the receipt I found back in those horrible sewers. What was this? Rachel, who were you running away with? Our hallway mirror had been smashed, its pieces scattered around the floor. Our sink, which needed to be replaced. One of the taps always stuck, but I hadn't got around to fixing it yet. We were lucky enough to get a house with one of those wonderful old claw-footed bathtubs. Now, those things are a pain to clean. Computer. This is where all the dark secrets are kept. My laptop had been left on and only had a tiny bit of power left. On the screen was a website about the old water tower. There was a key in the top drawer of my desk. Did I take it? I pocketed the key. Alright, maybe to the basement, I think that is. I unlocked the basement door. There were old Christmas decorations in the box. The garbage bags were stuffed with old paint cans and supplies. There was a dirty old key here. Did I take the key? I took the small key and tried to remember what it unlocked. There were old clothes, tools, and other things we obviously hadn't thrown out yet. I put up this divider wall last summer so we could create a separate room in the basement. I hadn't finished it yet, so the door was stuck and the drywall was poorly installed. I might have been able to break through if I found something heavy enough. Okay, there was another door up here. The grimy key I had found in the basement unlocked the door. It looked like the room had been tossed around. The furniture was a mess. Did somebody break in here? There was an old crowbar on the floor. Oh, that's grim. In the bedroom? There was an old crowbar on the floor. Did I need to take the crowbar? I lifted the heavy crowbar. I appreciated its weight. Crowbars are good. Did I break through the wall with the crowbar? With a heave, I swung the crowbar at the wall. I smashed a hole large enough to step through. As I stepped through the broken wall, my breath caught in my throat. This was it. Was Rachel down there? Was she okay? Don't look, it says. It's a big basement you got there, buddy. A filthy-looking pile of rags had been dumped in the corner. The stench of them was awful and made my eyes water. I was terrified to even touch the pile to see what lay within, but I knew I had to. I had come this far. After all this searching, after all I'd seen, when I looked within the rags, did I finally find my Rachel? I mean, it kind of seems like the only way the story the way the story can go. Wrapped within the filthy rags, pale and still, was Rachel. She was covered in fading bruises and what looked like cuts. Her chest was a horrible mess of blood and dirt, and I couldn't bear to look at it. The knife in my boot, the gun in my pocket, were they the tools of her murder? I thought about all I had seen and wondered if any of it could help me figure out who had done this. And when I couldn't stay there any longer, I stepped away on shaky legs and made my way back upstairs. Reluctantly, exhausted from my journey, I could no longer resist the urge to close my eyes. It was my wallet, with its contents intact. Either I dropped that stuff or somebody else did. Maybe I was sleepwalking again, or maybe somebody stole it from me. Norman's store, that forest, the water tower. Was I at those places before? I'll say no. No, there was no way that was me out there. I woke up in the house, remember? I wasn't off in any damn forest. There, that was decided. This is interesting, because if I say yes to if I said yes to that, it would just confirm the kind of obvious narrative, but maybe I would use some of Rachel's travel books and find some place to go. This was the old photo of that other man and his wife, I assumed. I found that in his house. I recalled those faded remains I had found deep underneath his house. What had he done there? Well, what did I think? Was that man involved in this whole mess somehow? I say yeah, definitely. Those tunnels, the odd tools in his house, and the remains of his wife? He wasn't innocent, that's for sure. Within the few broken pieces that remained of that mirror, I could see my face had grown pale and weak. I couldn't bear to look again. It was like I didn't actually expect a reflection. I felt empty and drained. The reflection in that grimy glass was only a shadow, a whisper. I still love the old-time charm of that claw-footed bathtub, though it seemed like cold comfort then. Wife's dead, but cool tub. It was the key card I found at the bottom of that factory locker. I never did bother to use it. Some would have been going through those lockers and poking around the plant. Still, it didn't quite add up. Was I the one who had been going back to the factory? Let's see here. Let's say yes. It looked that way, didn't it? The locker room. I had given up drinking, but... The laptop had finally run out of power. Hey, baby. Hi. Yeah. Oh, she's purring up a storm, isn't she? Hi, girl. My old office safe sat on the floor. It used a digital passcode lock. Did I try to open it? The safe to use an 8-digit code. What was that damn code again? I leafed through the notebook I had taken from the forest. In it were the names that had been written down. Heather, Olivia, Ashley, Cheryl, Iris, Daphne, Holly, Rose, Rachel. Yeah, a lot of those are flower names. Those poor girls. Were those the victims of the same person who had killed Rachel? So some of them were. Because, remember, some of the check marks were different, newer ink. I wonder what had happened to the other names on that list. The ones scratched out on that desk in those wet tunnels. Wait. It was the letter I had taken from the post box. Who had sent it out for Norman? Who sent him that letter? It must have been someone from the neighborhood, or at least somebody who wanted it to look that way. I wasn't sure what to think. Did Norman... Did he murder Rachel? No, I didn't. Norman ended up dead himself. Whoever sent that threatening letter must have got to him, but who the hell was that? From now on, I'd have no one to get angry with me for stupid things like buying this TV. Do not listen to my cat's lies as she yells at a corner across the house. Yeah? No, I feed you a lot. You're making me look bad in front of the nice people. I'm kind of avoiding going to the basement. It seemed like I had seen all there was. Maybe I thought I was ready to go back into the basement. The mail still sat there, heaped on the floor. How long had Rachel been lying in the basement? There was nothing for me here anymore. No reason to stay in that house. Did I leave, never to return? No. No. I had to think about it more. There would be no more dinners here, no more chit-chat over breakfast. At least not for us. Oh, thank you, Big Jeans. I'm happy you like Radio Free Midworld. If I was guilty, I could take this to a warm, safe place and do something about it. Did I pick up the knife? No. If I wanted to end it, I could do it. I could do it with that gun. Did I pick it up again? Just the thought made my head spin. I left the gun on the cold basement floor. Hey, Darren. Now that I stood there, I realized I couldn't go back into that room again. I had already seen too much. It's going okay. No reason to stay in the house. Did I leave, never to return? Yes. Living in this town hadn't been easy. The plan had helped me in some way to stay grounded. It kept me in line, gave me something to do, and helped me get away from my past. When the factory closed, everything changed. I guess that was when I started sleepwalking, disappearing for hours at a time. I had MRIs and piles of doctor's reports, but there seemed to be nothing to help. Not even drinking. But I swear I had tried to give it up. I know it. The sleepwalking never really went away, though. But I know Rachel had tried. I know she had tried to be there for me, even when everything was falling apart. This night had unearthed terrible truths, but I knew it was a final act of a long-standing horror I'd been living. Waking up in that house tonight was the final cruelty. I wish I had just remained unconscious in that room forever. It was obvious to me that the man I had found in that house had something to do with all this. Could he have killed Rachel? It started to seem... Oops, I advanced it. After making it out of those tunnels, I thought I thought that those sewers might feel safer. I was wrong. The security tape I had watched showed someone being attacked by what looked like two people. But who was it that was attacked? With Rachel gone, the implications of what happened that night were starting to gnaw at me. Someone had clearly taken my wallet. It wasn't me in those woods or in Norman's. But who could have done so? And why drop my things all over the place? Was someone trying to incriminate me? Even more troubling were those poor girls I had found in those terrible woods. Half hidden in a shallow grave, their secret deaths seemed like the ultimate defiling. If I hadn't found them, would anyone have done so? Would they have been missed? I vaguely recalled the desk I had seen in those tunnels, the names etched there. Someone had killed those girls. Was it that man? It was clear, at least, that I had been the one going back to that factory. I must have been sleepwalking or something. But what the hell was I doing there? I had given up drinking, hadn't I? So what was going on in that boarded-up room? Suddenly, my stomach started to turn. Was I responsible for that dead guard? After the factory, I thought I might find some solace if I could just get to Norman's store. But all I had found were more horrors and more questions. Now that I really consider it, that's when I should have seen it coming. Damn, Norman. How did you get mixed up in all this? I know you weren't a perfect man, none of us are, but you didn't deserve this. Maybe whoever had done you in was responsible for the other murders that happened in that town. At the very least, I was convinced you and Rachel were killed by the same person. I sincerely hoped you would find some peace, my friend. I knew I never would. When I had marched through the rain toward home, I desperately clung to the hope that this would end. And I guess in a way it did, but how could I have known how hopeless it all was? I had started to feel as disoriented as when I sleepwalked. To think of it now, I guess I should have known from the terrible silence that greeted me when I first stepped into our house and stood there in the kitchen. There was no sound of television, radio. Even the air was still, but seeing Rachel there lying ruined and discarded in the basement, that was a horror I never could have imagined. I didn't know if I'd ever find the answers I craved, but I knew that somehow that other man I had found was responsible for this. If not directly, he must have had a hand in Rachel's death. So what was I doing in that damned house? Had I found out? Had I killed him? My damned condition made it difficult to know. Memories and timeframes were always a mess, and I could never be sure. Knowing that man was dead, though, was cold comfort. My wife was gone, and no matter what happened to me now, I was lost forever. As I swung open the door and stepped out into the air, I caught the scent of wet grass and fog. Rachel, my beautiful wife. Just the thought of her again, cold and inert, shook me from head to toe. What could I do now? Who would I turn to? It would only be a matter of time before the police got involved, before the neighbors knew. The front lawn was soft and giving beneath my feet, and I couldn't shake the urge that I shouldn't stand there, but rather that I should run. Yeah, I'm not sure what to think of that. It's definitely really neatly put together. And the mystery angle of it is kind of neat. One moment here. One moment. Oh, huh. Yeah, I guess if you play it again, you get a true ending. Yeah, there's a way to go through and and bypass all of the evidence. Yeah, make it like it never even happened. That feels feels really feels really inspired by Heavy Rain, actually, in that regard. Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely a possibility in terms of if he is, yeah, he probably is the killer. Was he being manipulated by the other guy? Was he acting as an apprentice by the other guy? Did he, pick up where the other guy left off? Were they unrelated? Don't know. I want to go read more. I don't know that I feel motivated to play it again. Yeah, I was expecting something more supernatural. But yeah, like a regular horror of humanity story can be good too. Awesome. Well, I'm going to go. That's all for tonight. Thank you everybody for watching. Oh, okay. Death on Still says, I don't know if it's a true ending, but I think that when it asks things like, is that Rachel? And you say no, it's not Rachel, the end changes a fair amount. Huh. Yeah, so you're influencing the story by your answers. Yeah, I want to go read more about this. I want to like look for a wiki or TV tropes and see if there's like a true path or if it is all subjective like that. Take care, everybody. Should be back tomorrow with something short, and then hopefully next weekend with the finale of Haunting Ground. Take care. Have a safe week. Holidays coming up here in the States. Be safe. All that good stuff. Yeah. Everybody be wonderful. Good night.